All right, let's get practical today and dive into something we can all use, how to keep those English conversations going strong, especially when it comes to small talk.
Small talk.
Those moments when you're chatting with someone new and want to sound natural, but maybe you struggle to keep the ball rolling. We've all been there.
Absolutely. Small talk can be a bit awkward even in your native language, but when you're speaking English, sometimes those anxieties can really ramp up.
That's so true. So that's why we're diving into this deep dive with a treasure trove, a toolkit of sorts of conversation-starting questions for you.
Mm.
You could think of it like a workout for your small talk muscles, helping you build that confidence and fluency in English.
And you know what's really great about the types of questions we're focusing on today is that these aren't your simple, basic yes or no questions. We're going for those open-ended questions that spark those longer answers and naturally kind of lead to follow-up questions.
Okay, so picture this. Someone asks you, how was your day? Now, instead of just saying good, which kind of shuts down the conversation, imagine you say, my day was pretty hectic, but the highlight was this hilarious cat video my friend sent me. Boom. Instant conversation starter.
Exactly. You've given them something to really latch onto. Now they might ask about the video, about your friend, or even just share a funny cat story of their own. You've opened a door for more interaction, which is, again, exactly what we want with small talk.
Okay, I'm already feeling more confident. Let's try another one. What did you do last weekend?
Ah, good one. This is your chance to reveal a bit about your hobbies, your interests, even if you just stayed home. Imagine you say, I finally tried that new bakery everyone's been talking about. Right away, you're inviting the other person to share their foodie experiences. Maybe they've been there, or maybe they'll have recommendations for you.
Okay, I'm seeing the pattern here. We're giving those specific details. It's almost like those little hooks that the other person can grab onto and continue the conversation.
Precisely. And the beauty of these open-ended questions is that they work in so many situations. At a party, at work, even just chatting with your neighbor.
Let's dive into a few more examples then. I'm curious about how we can answer a question like, what hobbies or interests do you have outside of work? Especially if you're not an expert in those hobbies yet.
That's a great point. It's so tempting to downplay our hobbies when we're beginners, but actually that's a fantastic opportunity to practice English. Imagine saying, I'm just starting to learn photography and I'm really enjoying it. That simple phrase just opens the door for someone to maybe share some of their photography tips or even just talk about their own creative pursuits.
So even if we're not like pros at our hobbies, we could still talk about them in a way that engages the other person and, bonus, helps us practice our English.
Exactly. And it shows you're open to learning new things, which is always an attractive quality in a conversation partner.
Okay, I'm loving this. Let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about those conversations that happen in the workplace. We've got some questions that are perfect for navigating those professional settings.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Small talk in the workplace can feel a bit trickier. There's that added layer of professionalism we want to maintain.
Right, like how do we answer a question like, what do you do for work? In a way that's engaging, but not, bragging or sounding robotic.
It's all about finding that balance between showcasing your skills and just maintaining a natural tone. Imagine saying, I work in marketing, and what I really enjoy is the creative problem solving. You've highlighted your job, but you've also given a personal touch by mentioning what you enjoy about it.
Ooh, I like that. It's not just reciting your job title, you're giving a little glimpse into your personality.
And it subtly invites the other person to ask you about those creative problem-solving experiences, which can lead to a much more interesting conversation than just, that's nice.
Okay, let's tackle a tougher one. The dreaded, what's one challenge you faced at work, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, I feel like that's where I would clam up.
It is a challenging one, but it's also a chance to kind of showcase your resilience and problem-solving skills. Remember, it's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about demonstrating how you learn and grow from tough situations.
So what's an example of an answer that strikes the right tone?
Imagine saying, I once had a project that was way behind schedule, and I was feeling completely overwhelmed. So I broke it down into smaller tasks, prioritized, and just communicated really clearly with the team. We ended up meeting the deadline, and I learned such a valuable lesson about time management.
Wow, that sounds so much better than stammering and saying, I don't know. I love how you focused on the positive outcome and the lesson that you learned.
Exactly. It shows that you can handle those difficult situations and come out stronger on the other side. And that's definitely something that any employer would appreciate. All right, let's move on to a question that can be a bit intimidating, even outside of work. What are your career goals? Sometimes I feel like I don't even know the answer to that myself.
It's a big question, and honestly, it's totally okay to not have a perfectly mapped out plan. The key here is to just express your aspirations in a way that feels authentic and enthusiastic.
So what would that sound like in a real conversation?
You might say something like, I'm really passionate about marketing and I'm excited to keep learning and growing in that field. I'm particularly interested in digital marketing, and I'd love to eventually lead a team in that area.
I love how you combined your current passion with a future vision, even if it's not super specific. It shows that you're ambitious and forward-thinking without sounding like you're reading off of a resume.
Exactly. It's about striking that balance between professionalism and personality, which is key for any successful small talk, especially in a work setting.
Okay, I'm feeling so much more prepared to tackle those work conversations now. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that I think we can all agree on: travel. Whether we've been around the world or just dream about it, travel stories are always a hit.
You're so right. Travel is such a rich topic for conversation because it taps into our sense of adventure, our curiosity about different cultures, and even just our longing for a change of scenery.
Okay, so how do we kick off a travel-themed chat? I'm seeing a question here that seems pretty straightforward. Have you traveled anywhere recently?
That's a great icebreaker. And remember, even if you haven't traveled recently, you can still talk about a past trip that was memorable or even just a place you're dreaming of visiting.
So instead of just saying, no, I haven't,
Mm,
I could say something like, I haven't been anywhere lately, but I'm dying to go to Japan someday. I'm fascinated by their culture and cuisine.
perfect. You've turned a simple no into an opportunity to share your interests and maybe even spark a conversation about travel tips or recommendations.
Okay, I'm liking this strategy of turning even um, simple answers into conversation starters. Now, I'm curious about how to answer a question like, what's your favorite place you've ever visited? I mean, how do you even choose just one?
Ah, that's the beauty of it. You get to pick a place that truly resonates with you, and then you use descriptive language to really bring it to life for the other person.
So instead of just saying Paris is my favorite, I could say something like, Paris just stole my heart. The charming cafes, the stunning architecture, even the smell of fresh bread everywhere. It felt like stepping into a movie.
Exactly. You've painted a picture with your words, and you've conveyed your personal connection to the place. That's what makes travel stories so captivating.
I'm ready to book a flight right now. Now let's talk about those future adventures. I'm seeing a question here that sparks wanderlust. Where would you like to go on your next trip?
Ah, the possibilities are endless. This question is all about sharing your travel aspirations and maybe even getting some recommendations from the other person.
So even if I haven't actually planned my next trip, I could say something like, I'm itching to explore Southeast Asia. The temples, the beaches, the food. Have you ever been?
Exactly. You're inviting them to share their experiences, and who knows, maybe they'll have some insider tips or hidden gems to recommend. It's a great way to keep the conversation flowing and maybe even get some travel inspiration along the way.
Okay, I'm officially in travel planning mode. And speaking of planning, I think it's time we get a little strategic and talk about how to make those travel stories even more engaging in English.
I love that. Because even the most incredible travel experiences can fall flat if we don't know how to express them effectively in English.
Right. So what are some tips for making those stories come alive?
Sensory language is your best friend here. Instead of just saying, the food was good, try to evoke the specific tastes and smells that made it memorable.
So instead of good, I could say the food was bursting with flavor, spicy, savory, a little bit sweet. It was an explosion of taste.
Exactly. You've engaged the listener's senses, and now they can almost taste it themselves.
This is so helpful. I'm already imagining all the amazing travel stories I can share now. But before we get too lost in daydreams, let's talk about a question that often comes up. Do you prefer relaxing vacations or adventure trips?
Ah, that's a great one. It reveals a lot about someone's personality and their travel style.
And it's a chance to use some comparative language, which is always good practice in English. I could say, I actually enjoy a mix of both. I love the thrill of an adventure, like hiking in the mountains, but I also need some downtime to relax on a beach and soak up the sun.
Perfect. You've clearly articulated your preference, and you even use some nice vocabulary like thrill and downtime.
Okay, I'm feeling way more confident about my travel English skills, but now my
Us.
stomach is rumbling. I think it's time to transition to one of my favorite topics, food. Because who doesn't love talking about delicious eats?
You read my mind. Food is a universal language. It's a fantastic way to connect with people from all over the world.
I'm already eyeing this question. What's one unique or exotic food you've tried while traveling? I feel like this could lead to some um, amazing stories and cultural insights.
Absolutely. This question encourages you to step outside of your culinary comfort zone and share an experience that broadened your horizons.
And even if you haven't traveled recently, you can still talk about a time you tried a new cuisine or dish that was outside of your usual repertoire.
Exactly. The key is to use descriptive language that captures those unique flavors, textures, and aromas of the dish.
So instead of just saying, I tried sushi, I could say something like, I remember the first time I tried sushi. The fresh, delicate flavor of the fish, the perfectly seasoned rice, the slight tang of the wasabi. It was a culinary revelation.
That's a perfect example. You've not only described the food, but you've also conveyed your personal experience and how it impacted you.
I'm suddenly craving sushi.
Yeah.
But before we get too sidetracked by our taste buds, let's talk about a question that can sometimes feel a bit awkward. Do you have any dietary restrictions?
That's a great point. It's important to be mindful of these things, especially when you're dining out or sharing meals with others.
And it's a chance to practice explaining our dietary needs in English, which can be helpful in a variety of situations.
Exactly. You could say something like, I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat meat, but I love trying different vegetable dishes.
Simple and to the point. And it opens the door for the other person to share their own dietary preferences or even recommend some vegetarian-friendly spots.
Exactly. It's all about turning potential awkwardness into an opportunity for connection and conversation.
Okay, I'm feeling way more equipped to handle those food-related chats now. But before we move on to the next delicious topic, I have to ask, what are some key takeaways from this first batch of questions?
I think the biggest takeaway is the power of specific details. Instead of giving one-word answers or vague responses, try to provide those concrete examples, those sensory descriptions, and personal anecdotes. It makes your English sound so much more natural and engaging, and it gives the other person something to really build on.
I love that. It's like we're giving them these little building blocks to construct a conversation.
Exactly. And remember, don't be afraid to personalize those answers. Share your passions, your quirks, your unique perspective. That's what makes a conversation truly memorable.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. Let's take a quick break and come back with even more tips and tricks for mastering those small talk conversations in English.
All right, let's pick up right where we left off. We covered some really great conversation starters for general small talk, for work, for travel. Now, how about we dive into that world of hobbies and interests? This is where those conversations can get really personal and spark some unexpected connections.
I love that. It's like giving people a little sneak peek into what you're passionate about, what makes you tick. And, even if someone's hobbies seem completely different from your own, there's always something we can learn from it or connect with on some level.
Absolutely. So to get things rolling, imagine someone asks you, what's one hobby or interest that you're really passionate about?
Ooh, good one. I feel like this is where our personalities really shine through, right? But how do we answer that in a way that's engaging, even if we're not, say, a professional level hobbyist or anything?
That's such a great question. It's so tempting to downplay our hobbies when we're not experts, but remember, enthusiasm, it's contagious. So instead of saying, oh, I just dabble in photography, imagine saying, I'm really into photography these days. I love capturing those everyday moments that often go unnoticed.
Ooh, I like that. It's not about being a pro, right? It's about sharing your genuine interest and why it appeals to you.
Exactly. And that simple shift in phrasing can spark a whole conversation. The other person might share their own photography experiences, offer tips, or even just talk about what they enjoy capturing with their phone camera.
Okay, I'm seeing how this works. We're taking a pretty simple question, and we're using it as a springboard for a deeper connection. Let's try another one. What's the most recent hobby or interest you've taken up?
Perfect. This one encourages exploration and lifelong learning, which are always appealing qualities in a conversation. Imagine saying, I recently started learning to play the ukulele. It's definitely challenging, but it's so much fun. I love the idea of being able to, create music.
I love how you highlighted the challenge and the joy in that answer. It's relatable, even if the other person doesn't play an instrument.
And it could easily lead to them sharing their own experiences with learning new things, or maybe even their secret wish to learn an instrument. Small talk, it isn't just about filling the silence. It's about finding those common threads that connect us as humans.
Oh, this is making me want to sign up for a pottery class or something. Okay, but before I get too distracted, let's tackle a question that I think a lot of people find tricky. Do you have any hidden talents that people might not know about? I mean, where do you even begin with that one?
It can feel intimidating, right?
Hmm.
But honestly, don't overthink it. This is a chance to share a fun fact about yourself, even if it's not some, like, mind-blowing skill.
So instead of feeling pressured to be, like, amazing at something, I could say something like, I can wiggle my ears. It's a totally useless talent, but it always makes people laugh.
Perfect. You've injected humor into the conversation, and you've made yourself memorable.
And you never know, maybe the other person has a quirky talent they'd love to share too. It's like we're breaking down those social barriers and allowing our personalities to shine through a little bit.
Exactly. And that's what makes small talk feel less like a chore and more like an opportunity to truly connect with someone.
Okay, I'm feeling so much more confident about navigating those hobby conversations now. But as much as I love talking about my passions, I think it's time we shift gears and tackle a topic that's maybe a bit more universally relatable: food.
Excellent transition. Because let's be honest, everyone has opinions about food. It's a topic that definitely sparks conversations, debates, even friendly rivalries.
So true. And I'm already intrigued by this question. What's your favorite type of food and why? It feels simple, but I bet it can lead to some really interesting discussions.
Absolutely. It's a chance to delve into those cultural influences, personal preferences, even just our emotional connections to certain foods.
So instead of just saying, I love pizza, I could say something like, I'm a huge fan of Italian food. You know, the fresh ingredients, the bold flavors, the heartwarming family recipes. It always reminds me of happy times.
Perfect. You've not only stated your preference, but you've also shared that personal connection, which makes your answer just that much more engaging.
Okay, I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
Right.
But before we plan our next meal, let's talk about a question that can sometimes feel a bit sensitive, right? Do you have any dietary restrictions?
That's a great point. It is important to approach this topic with sensitivity and awareness.
But it's also a chance to practice explaining those restrictions clearly in English, which can be really helpful in all sorts of situations.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be complicated. You could simply say, I'm lactose intolerant, so I avoid dairy products.
Simple and straightforward. And if the other person is curious, you can always elaborate further, sharing tips for navigating restaurants or even just your favorite dairy-free alternatives.
Exactly. It's about turning a potentially awkward topic into an opportunity to share information and maybe even connect over shared experiences.
Okay, I'm feeling so much more confident with those food conversations now. But since we're talking about connecting with others, I think it's time we explore a topic that's all about relationships, family and friends.
I love that because at the end of the day, relationships are what truly enrich our lives and shape our experiences.
And it's a topic that's universally relatable, even across cultures, because everyone has a family story to tell. So how about we start with a question that gets to the heart of those family dynamics? Do you have any siblings? And what's your relationship with them like?
Ooh, that's such a great icebreaker. It invites people to share those personal stories, maybe some childhood memories, and even the evolving dynamics of their relationships with their siblings as they've grown up.
And even if someone is an only child, they can still talk about their close friends who are like family to them, right?
Exactly. Because ultimately, this question is about those people who have shaped us and played a really significant role in our lives.
So instead of just listing off, I have two brothers and a sister, I could say something like, I have an older brother and we used to fight like cats and dogs growing up, but now he's one of my best friends and I can always count on him.
Perfect. You've given a glimpse into your family dynamic, and you even highlighted a positive aspect of your relationship with your brother.
Okay, I'm seeing how this works. We're taking these seemingly simple questions and turning them into opportunities to share those personal stories and connect on a deeper level.
Exactly. And that's the secret sauce of great small talk. It's not about the superficial chit-chat. It's about finding those authentic connections that make a conversation truly memorable.
All right, I'm feeling inspired. Let's keep this momentum going and explore some more questions that delve into those personal connections and family stories.
So let's jump back into those relationship-themed questions. I'm kind of curious how we can answer something like, what's your family like? Without, launching into a full-blown family history lecture.
Yeah, right. We want to be engaging, not overwhelming.
Exactly. Imagine saying something like, my family is pretty close-knit. We love getting together for Sunday dinners. It's always chaotic, but full of laughter.
Ooh, I like that. You've given a general impression of your family dynamic, and you even hinted at a specific tradition, which could spark further conversation.
Exactly, and it's perfectly fine to just keep it brief. The other person can always ask follow-up questions if they're curious to know more.
Okay, so we're aiming for concise but evocative answers that invite further interaction. I like it. Let's try another one. What about, do you have any nieces or nephews? I feel like that one could either be super sweet or a bit tricky if your relationship with them is, well, complicated.
You're so right. Family dynamics can be complex. But remember, you can always tailor your answer to the situation and the level of comfort you have with the person you're talking to.
So if I'm really close to my nieces and nephews, I could say something like, I have two adorable nieces who I absolutely adore. They're at that age where everything is an adventure. It's so much fun to just see the world through their eyes.
Perfect. That conveys warmth and even a little bit of your personality. But if, for whatever reason, you're not that close to them or prefer not to share details, you could always just keep it brief and neutral, like, yes, I have a few nieces and nephews.
Okay, that makes sense. It's good to have those options. Now, I'm curious about how to approach a question like, are you in a relationship? I mean, it seems pretty straightforward, but it can also feel kind of personal, especially if you're chatting with someone you just met.
Right, it can be a bit delicate. But remember, you are always in control of how much you want to share. If you're comfortable, you could say something like, yes, I've been with my partner for 5 years and we're having a blast exploring the city together.
Ooh, I like how you casually worked in a detail that could open up further conversation, like what kind of exploring you do or what you enjoy about the city. But what if you're not in a relationship?
Then you can just say, I'm not currently in a relationship, but I'm enjoying my single life and focusing on my hobbies and career.
Okay, I'm noticing a pattern here. We're being honest, we're being authentic, but we're also mindful of keeping things light and positive. We're not oversharing or getting too deep too quickly.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between being open and just respecting those conversational boundaries, especially in those early stages of getting to know someone.
Okay. I'm feeling much more equipped to handle those relationship-themed conversations now. But, as much as I love talking about family and friends, I think it's time we switch gears and explore a topic that's maybe a bit more intellectual, a bit more thought-provoking, current events.
I love that because staying informed about what's happening in the world is so crucial for engaging in meaningful conversations and just broadening our perspectives in general.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean we have to be, like, experts on every single topic, but having some awareness of what's going on in the world allows us to connect with others on a deeper level. So how about we start with a question that's kind of open-ended, but it still invites those more specific responses. Have you been following any interesting news stories lately?
That's a great starting point. It allows people to share their interests, their concerns, even their hopes for the future.
And it's a chance to practice using vocabulary related to news and current affairs, which is always helpful for, expanding our English language skills.
Absolutely. So imagine someone asks you that question and you're particularly interested in, say, the advancements in renewable energy. You could say, yes, I've been following the developments in solar technology. It's so fascinating to see how scientists are finding new ways to harness the power of the sun.
Ooh, I like that. You've shared a specific area of interest, but you've also kept it positive and engaging. It's not like a rant or a debate. It's just a genuine expression of curiosity.
Exactly. And it opens the door for the other person to share their own thoughts on renewable energy, or maybe even other technological advancements that have caught their attention.
I'm seeing the power of these open-ended questions. We're not just exchanging information. We're sparking these conversations that can lead to unexpected connections and shared stress.
Precisely. And that's what makes small talk so much more than just that idle chit-chat. It's about building bridges, expanding our knowledge, and connecting with others on a human level.
All right. I'm feeling inspired to brush up on my current events knowledge. But before we dive into the next news headline, I'm curious, what are some key takeaways from these relationship and current events themed questions?
I think the biggest takeaway is the importance of being authentic and engaging. Don't be afraid to share your personal experiences, your passions, your unique perspective on the world.
I love that. It's
Yeah.
not about trying to sound perfect or impress others with our vast knowledge or anything. It's about being genuine and allowing our personalities to shine through.
Exactly. And remember, even if you're not an expert on a particular topic, you can still contribute to the conversation by asking thoughtful questions and just expressing genuine curiosity.
Okay, I'm feeling more confident, prepared to tackle those social situations with ease and fluency. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground already, but I think it's time we explore a topic that's near and dear to my heart. personal growth and reflection. Because let's be honest, those deep conversations are often the most rewarding.
You're so right. Taking the time to reflect on our experiences, our challenges, and our aspirations is so crucial for personal growth and self-awareness.
And it's a fantastic way to connect with others on a deeper level, sharing those vulnerable moments and just learning from each other's journeys. So how about we start with a question that kind of invites a bit of introspection. What's one challenge or obstacle you faced in your life, and how did you overcome it?
That's such a powerful question. It encourages us to think about those times we've been tested, the lessons we've learned, and the resilience that we've developed along the way.
And it's a chance to practice using language related to, overcoming challenges, which can be helpful for boosting our confidence in English and in life.
Absolutely. So imagine someone asks you that question, and you recall a time when you had to adapt to a new culture after moving to a different country. You could say, moving abroad was a huge challenge for me. I had to learn a new language, navigate a different culture, and basically build a new life from scratch. It was tough at times, but I persevered, and I'm so proud of how far I've come.
Wow, that's such an inspiring story. You've not only described the challenge, but you've also highlighted your resilience and the positive outcome. It's a reminder that we all have the strength to overcome obstacles, even when they seem insurmountable.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that those challenges often shape us into the people we are today.
Okay, I'm feeling motivated to embrace those challenges and just learn from every experience. But before we get too deep into existential pondering, I'm curious, what are some key takeaways from these personal growth and reflection-themed questions?
I think the biggest takeaway is the power of vulnerability. When we share our stories, our struggles, our triumphs, we create a space for that authentic connection and empathy.
I love that. It's not about pretending to have it all figured out. It's about being real, being honest, and allowing ourselves to be seen for who we truly are.
Exactly. And remember, everyone has a story to tell. So the next time you're feeling stuck in small talk, don't be afraid to ask those deeper questions. Listen with an open heart and share your own experiences with vulnerability and grace.
Wow. This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from general small talk to, those thought-provoking discussions about personal growth and everything in between.
It has been such a fantastic journey, and I hope our listeners feel empowered to spark those engaging conversations in English, building connections, and expanding their language skills along the way.
Absolutely. Remember, the key is to practice, personalize those answers, and most importantly, have fun with it. Conversation is a beautiful dance, and with a little confidence and creativity, you can become a fluent and engaging conversationalist.
I couldn't agree more. Now, before we wrap up, I have one final thought-provoking question for our listeners. It's a question that encourages us to think about the conversations we want to have, the connections that we want to make. What's one question you wish someone would ask you in a conversation?
Ooh. That's a good one. It really makes you think about the topics that you're passionate about, the stories that you'd love to share, the aspects of yourself that you want to kind of reveal to the world.
Exactly. So listeners, we challenge you to ponder that question and maybe even share your answer with us on social media. We'd love to hear what's on your mind.
And remember, the journey to fluency is ongoing. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those conversations flowing.
Until next time, happy chatting.